name is Dylan Mayoral. I was born and raised in London, and growing up, I did musical theatre and gymnastics from the age of 7, and I, carried on doing gymnastics and musical theatre. And I did a couple shows growing up in the theatre, a couple fashion shows and things like that. And then when I was 15, I joined a performing arts school called the Brit School, where I started to train in ballet, contemporary, jazz, and tap. And at the same time, outside of school, I was also training a lot in hip hop styles, such as, street styles, hip hop foundations, social grooves, popping, locking, house, breaking, and choreography. And I was continuously doing that. And then after finishing my time at the Brit School at the age of 18, I started to work, and I've been working ever since. I've traveled to over 40 different countries teaching my own dance workshops. I've danced with artists like Rita Ora, Fergie, Dua Lipa, Calvin Harris, Sam Smith. I've choreographed for a K-pop group called BTS, and most recently, before Corona happened, I was living in New York performing in an off-Broadway production called Beyond Babel. And now, today, I'm still training. I'm still, trying to advance my level in dance and just continuing to teach and travel. Yeah.
What kind of dance genres, do you like?
My training was very interesting because normally in my generation, or like the older generations, you tend to kind of stick to one style. Like if you grew up in a studio setting, you might specialize in jazz, ballet, or contemporary. If you're more from like the street styles and you get into more like hip hop and those raw styles there, you tend to stick with those. But I genuinely had the best of many worlds, and I had a very interesting training. So in school, I was training like classical, ballet, jazz, contemporary, and tap. And then when I would leave school, I would go train in hip hop, choreography, and those foundational styles. So honestly, for me, I've trained in over 14 different styles, and I love jazz just as much as I love hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So but one of my favorite styles is a style called popping, which is just like popping the body like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a style that I've always loved, especially because the music is, it comes from 80s funk music, which just has so much like groove and soul to it, and it does something to my body. Yeah.
Great. Another thing that I'm interested in my research is the merge of so-called culture and subculture, yes, because some of the music styles and genres were underappreciated within the classical music world, like electronic dance music, styles like house, techno, drum and bass, and I'm interested that how does the situation currently with dance, because as you said, in the Brit School, the core subject's probably going to be the classical and contemporary, the top. But what about like house moves and techno moves and drum and bass moves? Do you think it's considered more as a subculture rather than a proper dance classes within the school frames?
Times are changing very fast, and people are starting to realize the potential and the growth of the more street and commercial styles.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a music video now, it's very likely that you're going to see elements of hip hop and elements of foundational styles in it, especially in the early 2000s, where you had a lot of music videos that were coming up with like a lot of influences from hip hop and breaking. Mm-hmm. And that was a very big era for pop music, and those type of music videos. And even when you think back to like Michael Jackson's videos, you see elements of, like, you can see, I was watching a Michael Jackson video the other day, and you can see the elements of like the styles that were really popular in the 1900s, maybe like swing, ballroom, and more jazz funk, like jazz. But later on, you can also see how like elements of styles that are popular today, popping, waving, robotics, were starting to get more popular, and he was using them. So people now are starting to be more open, and like actually the Brit School is a very good example to use because my teachers are very like classically trained, but like they always encourage new styles, and they're very open, and like if there is a student who specializes in house, they would encourage that, and they would use that and like use that to the best of its potential, and be like, okay, in this piece there's going to be some jazz, and then this section can be house. So people are starting to understand that, you know, it's going to help if we know and welcome more styles and genres.
In music, for example, like those kind of genres and styles were underappreciated for a long period of time. And some musicians still are thinking that those kind of styles and genres, they either easier to make or they're too repetitive, too minimalistic. However, I think that just the aesthetics of the styles, they're completely different, because you, from one side, your music is really minimal, but the change is happening in its texture or sound design, or just the purpose of the electronic dance music were made for the people to dance in the clubs, not for the professional dancers. And I'm interested to see how do the professional dancers approach those kind of subculture genres within the universities.
Right. Professional dancers, like this name, like professional dancers, it's really hard. Like, what is a professional dancer? Because, you know, how to explain this? Like, does it mean that you make a living off of dance, or does it mean that you've reached a high level of dance, or does it mean that you dance all day? I've met professional dancers that are working in the industry and are working as dancers, but in the nicest way possible. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but like the skill level isn't very high.
Yeah.
But then I've also met dancers that they have like some of the highest skill I've seen in the whole world, but they're not like working in the industry. They're not like necessarily getting paid like every day from dance. In the dance world, like whether you have a dance degree or not, it's very dependent. Like if I want to work in a school, if I want to work in an institute, it would help to have a degree in dance, because it shows that you've like studied, and it shows that you know you have a degree, and in an educational kind of environment that is important. But let's say I want to let's say I want to audition to go on a tour. They're not gonna be like, who here has a degree in dance? They're more interested in what experience do you have, what have you done in the past, and how good are you, and then it goes into connections. I've met plenty of extremely successful dancers that, you know, did not go to dance college, and vice versa. So I do think dance college is very valuable, though. It just depends on like what lane you want to go in, and like where you want to go in the future. In the musical theatre industry, it does help to show that you've like trained in a dance college, because like most of the people who go into musical theatre will come from one of these institutions that will like really build you to have that like a full performer's portfolio. You know, you can act, you can sing, you can dance, you have these techniques in acting, you have these techniques in singing, and so on. It's not the case for it's not like compulsory, but it does help, I think. Oh, lovely. Just in time. 3 o'clock.
Can you tell us, please, what's the difference between contemporary dance moves and underground dance style moves? I know that for you as a dancer it might seem obvious, but for an ordinary people who does not involved with dance every single day, or for a musician, it's a big deal.
The people who pioneered hip-hop dance are still alive today, which is crazy. It's really, I don't think people understand how crazy that is, because hip-hop is huge in today's society, yet we're still like
developing,
like it's still a baby. We forget that. But contemporary, it developed its own techniques, you know, such as Graham and Cunningham and Release, and they have like certain techniques within the contemporary world. Well, yeah, and okay, so both actually have some similarities, contemporary and hip hop, in the sense that they have some structure to it. Like contemporary has some set of moves that are like from the contemporary style, and hip hop has certain moves that are from the hip hop style, like names of these steps that have historical context. They have like history. They come from something, someone, from an era. Like, yeah, for hip hop, I can say for sure that these social grooves came from the society of that time. And
Why other styles are more popular within the youth?
the youth today, like my generation, why do we gravitate more towards hip hop as opposed to like classical music or like contemporary music or like the music of like the early 1900s, for example? Hip hop was created as a form of expression and like literally as like a form of freedom. And I feel like my generation, my era, the time that I'm, you know, alive, and the time that I was born, it's a huge era of like self-expression and kind of like standing up for what you believe in, and you know, to you know, to rebel against the control.
Musically speaking as well, like if we look at the rappers, yeah, some of the rappers doesn't have a music degree as well.
Yeah.
And they instruments, not necessarily the singing when they sing the notes, but the way of expression, they're rhythmically speaking.
Yeah.
They create the lyrics, or the so-called speak the bars, you know, how they call it in the subculture. So they create the lyrics and then the rap within the beat. If you don't have this musical background, you can still musically express yourself through the words, you know, through the different texts and the poetry. To me, like a very good rapper, it's like a good poet in the 1900s.
Yeah, no, oh, for sure. I feel like, you know, being human, it is hard. Like even if you live in like a great country and like your surroundings are great, it's not just about your surroundings, because it, like, life is within, like life is how you perceive it. And so like being human, I feel like it is tough. We go through struggles, and I feel like hip hop and rap, like a lot of the time they speak from like a point of struggle, and it can be like very motivating at times, or sometimes it can be very dark. And I feel like as humans we have those dark moments in our life that we can connect to with music, and you know, hip hop just speaks to us in that way.
So to me, as I see it, and I can be wrong, it's a combination of the musical rebellion of the rappers. Classical ballet, it's not in our everyday life, you know. And if we want to go and see ballet performances, we have to go to the theater, so it's slightly detached, because it's either on the stage or it's something that you're watching. But as a person who doesn't do any dance moves, is you're as an observer of what's going to happen, and that seems that a little bit detached. Where, for example, if I'm listening to the rap music and I see a dancer who dances some hip hop moves, I can repeat the lyrics at least with the music, and that's already going to be a connection. Where, for example, in the theater I would sit and watch, because it's impolite to speak when somebody else is dancing. So to me it's really interesting how does people classify what is classical, what is contemporary, what is so-called high art, and what is called low art. Because to me the art is something that humans create in the present, so it's like artifacts of self-expression. Because if we look at the classical composers, Scriabin and Rachmaninoff, they were novelists at their own time. Yes, of course, there were other people, and those specific musicians, they were educated through the schools, but as soon as they gain those knowledge, they start to experiment and maybe break the rules. And back in the day, to other composers, they might be criticizing their work and saying how novel it is. But to me, art is something about the experimentation and innovation, because if there isn't that in the part of innovation and experimentation, it means that your art practice became a repetition of someone else's work.
Yeah.
And that's the part why I start to produce music and compose music, because I was playing classical music for a really long time. But at the same time, I reached the point where I started to ask myself a question and say, yes, okay, it's really good. The music of Bach, music of Rachmaninoff, music of all these very, very famous composers, it's beautiful and a great piece of work. But inside of me, I felt that, yes, I can produce someone else's musical ideas, but what exactly can I do?
Yeah.
And I felt that to me it was really, really sad that, yes, I'm able to play these beautiful pieces of work, and my interpretation of the same work will still be my kind of my way of how I look at this musical pieces. But at the same time, to me there was the need to express, to explore my musical potential. And I'm still doing it, and I'm still hungry for it, and I don't think there's ever gonna be the end of fully exploring what's musically or artistically you can do, because there's so many ways. And at one point you can see that, oh, I've understood everything, and like next day you think, I don't know nothing, you know. And with fresh perspective, you coming back to the same thing, coming back to create and things like that. So to me, the contemporary art and with electronic tools, all of those different genres, is the way of experimentation with the different contexts. How do you think where the urban dance styles are going to be in the future?
I truly believe that sometime in the future we are going to see hip-hop, commercial, popping, locking house. We're going to see these styles be like very commercialized, and we're going to see them have more respect than they have now. And we're going to see dance as more of a sport than we see it now, because when you look at professional athletes, they have, you know, let's look at this is the thing people don't understand. When someone is a professional athlete and they are the top of their level, the top of their sport, basketball, baseball, football, running, cycling, anything, the people at the top, do you think they are worried about how they're going to fund their retirement? Even the top dancers that do hip-hop and street styles, you know, they're earning well, but you know, it's not going to fund their retirement. They still have to, you know, figure out what they're going to do when they can't use their body anymore. Now, I understand that there's so many factors that come into play with this, that, you know, with athletes, it's they have sponsorships, they have competitions, they have very rich sponsorships, etc., etc. But the fact is, people don't understand what it actually takes to be a dancer. I train in boxing as well, so boxing is incredibly difficult. But just to put it in perspective, boxers usually don't train more than 6 hours in a day. But dancers, it's not crazy to, like, I was training 12 to 14 hours a day when I was like training to be professional. And you know, our rehearsal days are 8 hours and our shoot days are sometimes 12 hours. So dancers are, and we're using our bodies like crazy.
Your body's
like
your tool. Yeah.
crazy. Like our bodies like are insane. And yeah, we don't see ourselves as athletes yet, and the public doesn't see ourselves as athletes.
But also, even just the fact that you're gonna go for the shoot, 12-hour shoot, you need to maintain your body.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You need to maintain, look at what you eat,
Everything.
exercise, and everything. So, and I think people don't really see that craft.
It's an athlete. It's a complete athlete lifestyle. And the thing is, some dancers don't even realize it. They don't even see it either, because these styles that we come from, which is like hip hop and street styles, we come from a very kind of like lax attitude and kind of like, nah, I don't need to stretch, or like, nah, I don't need to watch what I eat. I just go. But they'll discover later that if you want to maintain at the top level and you want to do a 12-hour shoot and be able to train the next day, like tomorrow I want to train. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tomorrow I want to do another shoot if I had to. And so you just can't do it unless you make these changes, like you said. Enough sleep. What are you eating? Are you drinking and smoking on your time off? All these things are going to affect your performance, because it's a performance. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the Olympics, the next Olympics, they're going to have breakdancing. Did you know this?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. No,
So the next Olympics,
I didn't.
for the first time, they're going to have breakdancing. And I don't think people understand how massive this is, because this is going to be the first time where we're going to see breakdancers be seen as Olympic athletes. And then that's going to be the beginning. Like, from there, we're going to see breakdancers being sponsored. They're already being sponsored by Red Bull and things like that, but we are going to see breakdancers being sponsored by these big companies that are going to pay breakdancers. Okay, you train for this much every day, every week. We'll provide your food. We'll provide your physio. Because right now, as a dancer, do you know how many jobs I have to do as a like? This is the crazy thing. Let's see, professional footballers. Do you think they have to cook? Do you think they have to do their washing? Do you think they have to do their marketing? Do you think they have to, do their taxes? And I'm not saying dancers shouldn't have to, but dancers literally have 1,000,001 jobs. Our job is 24/7.
As a musician as well.
Yes, for
you
sure.
have to be your own manager. You have to be your.
That's the thing.
Complete your tax returns.
It's an art form, but
things like that.
But the reason why I'm separating dance is because dance is the only art form. Same as music, same as art, it's the only art form where it's a sport as well. And that's why it's so incredibly complex. And I know the music industry is in the same boat as dance, where people struggle. It's not a secret that musicians struggle to find gigs, to find work and stuff. But when you're at the top, you can't deny this. When you're at the top of the music, you're set for life, right? Like the
everybody wants you.
The top musicians, the top producers, they're making enough money to be able to set them for life. But the top, no matter how good you are as a dancer, like I know the best dancers of today, and they're making good money, don't get me wrong, but in my opinion, I believe they should be getting more. And that's another thing in dance, is that we're shy to ask for more. Like, we're shy to demand more. I'm not big on money. Like, I don't want to make a huge amount of money, but I do believe the amount of work I've put into my craft, the amount of what I've done to get to where I am today, I should be able to fund my retirement.
The part of my thesis and the part of my research portfolio is about movement. It's just the idea of movement, the movement in music, the movement in the dance, and the connection of movement of music and dance. How do you listen to the music from the dance perspective? How do you translate this movement into your dance moves?
The way I think about it is, my process in creating movement is, first I listen to the music 100 million times, and I study the music, and I really listen. I separate the sounds that I listen to, and I put them into its own kind of category, and I kind of like visualize the sound.
Hold on a second. Do you visualize from the dance perspective, or you just focusing on the music?
Yes. So I see sound but not in human form. So when I listen to music, I can see movement in my head, but it's not in the shape of a human body. So for example, like it may be that I just see like dum dum dum, like a zigzag, and then maybe like with my body I might do a zigzag, but I see it in like movement, but it's not like movement with like a body.
Yeah.
And then like with that I also gather like, because with movement there is movement, and then there is timing and rhythm, and then there is textures and dynamics. So there's so many levels, like there's not just movement, and so the way I figure that out is, let's say I have like a drum beat in the music. First I figure out like I kind of place the music in real life and see like where I see it in real life. So like maybe the drums are like in front, like right here closer to you, and maybe like, and I add weight to the music. So like the drums are normally quite like, they may be quite small, because like a kick is very like punchy, but it can be quite heavy, and then with that weight I'll apply it to my body. I can change the weight of my body to make it look like my body's heavier or lighter. And then it's the same then if I have a like, maybe there's like a pluck that is like really at the back with a lot of reverb, then maybe the way my body will interpret that is like very small movement with a tail like with to my movement.
It depends how we listen to the music. Yes, if we listen to a small specific pattern, we can see the movements, for example, in one drum beat. But if we listen to the entire piece of music, it's all of those musical elements, whether it's the drums or the bass line or the chords or the melodies or any kind of textures, all together as a whole or as a cluster, they also produce different kind of movements. The movement of the musical structure is also present, as well as the movement of the separate musical elements. Have you ever thought on that subject?
Let's say I'm creating a piece for theatre, for stage, and it has like a story, and like the music very clearly has a beginning, middle, end, and then there's moments during that journey. You're gonna want to show that in your movement. So, you know, like if a song starts off quite like, you know, it gradually builds in energy of the music, then you want to also mimic that with your movement, and allow that to build your movement performance as well.
There is the genre for the dancers, it's called screen dance.
Okay.
Where you, from one side, you would work on the choreography for the music, but on the other side, there are also a choreographed part of how you edit the video files. So, for example, from one side, there is a movement of the gesture and the body and the sequence of the music and the dance movements, but at the same time, depending on how you edit the video, because there's so many ways of how you can edit the video, you can also create this movement on, I don't know, the video, the cuts going happen fast, and even though the moves themselves might not play at the big part, but the video cut and the movement of the cuts adds the effects of movement.
That is so important to think about, because there's the dancing and then there's the video editing, which is you're controlling the eyes of the audience.
Yeah.
And so you have power to make a piece 10 times better or 10 times worse. Because my movement is quite complex, it doesn't work well with a lot of edits, because you need to like almost like stay still and appreciate it and have some time to digest. Whereas I've seen like, look, this is the crazy thing. Now that I'm a professional dancer and I've reached a certain level and standard, I watch music videos differently, and it's very interesting the way they edit. Like, trust me, these guys, they know how to make people who can't dance look like they can dance. And I'm not trying to be offensive here, but like I've seen music videos where like, I promise you, if the artist was just dancing in a one shot wide, the dancing would not look strong.
Do you think it's kind of masking the lack of technique?
Yes. Music videos these days, they're very like super edited, a lot of close-ups, a lot of like moments where the artist like capturing the thing. Don't get me wrong, they look great, but like the other day I was
But
watching,
it's just the hand, yeah.
like I was watching a music video and I was like, it's very interesting. Like they would get one, they would get like 2 or 3 moves in there, like let's say boom boom ka, and then they would cut. They would never get like a whole 8 of movement. Of no cuts. They would never get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like there would have already been like 2 cuts by then, because they want to make it like seem very like a lot is happening. It's very interesting, yeah.
Dylan, do you play games? Video games?
Yes, I play a lot of video games.
So what are your favorite video games?
At the moment, my favorite video game is a game called Overwatch.
Why do you like it so much?
I don't know. Well, I'm a big fan. I'm very competitive, and I like a type of game called FPS, which stands for first person shooters. So it's first person and you shoot people. In 2017, I got injured from my shoulder and I had to stop dancing, and I was quite depressed, to be honest, and I spent a lot of time at home playing video games, and it reignited my passion with video games, because like I always played video games growing up. It's very big in my family. I have 2 brothers, so we played a lot growing up. My dad was a big gamer as well, but when I started to train as a dancer, I had no time, because I was training 12 to 14 hours a day, and I stopped playing video games, and this got me back into playing video games. And yeah, this game called Overwatch is a team-based game, so you have to work with your team to capture the point or eliminate the enemy team. Very, very tactical, very, very strategic, and very fun.
Do you feel yourself united when you play games with other people in teams?
Honestly, like, I feel like whenever I'm stressed or whenever I'm like overloaded with work, gaming is just the best thing to do, because it's an escape. Like, you really escape to another world, and like you really give your brain a rest in a weird way though, because I'm not resting my brain. I'm super like using my brain in the game, but it feels like I'm resting my brain. It's very weird. But yeah, and I've made friends through Overwatch. Like you meet different players and you play together, you add each other, and yeah, it's very common in the gaming world to meet friends that you'll never meet in real life. It's weird, isn't it?
It's great. Right now, currently, the dance games become more and more popular.
Oh dear.
What's your opinion on the dance games as a professional dancer?
Let's say, you know when you go to an arcade and there's the dance mat with the arrows.
Yeah.
I think that one's really cool. It shows that you need a lot of like coordination to like move your feet like that. I've seen some very good like people do it on that, where they have no groove but they're just like this.
Yeah.
And then I know that there's a game called like Just Dance, or like there's games on consoles that can track your movement where you have to like strike positions. It's cool. I think it's a great way to like be active, to learn those particular movements and social grooves, and be rewarded. You get a reward, because gaming, you advance in levels and you like feel rewarded. So I think it's cool, yeah.
Because the dance is your profession, maybe those kind of games aren't really of your interest, because it's something that you do differently every day.
Yeah, I love dance, but I also love the fact that I can allow myself to detach from it, and like me playing video games is like a form of detaching from my first profession, from my main profession, which is dance. So I can't imagine like getting home from a full day of rehearsal and then going in to play a game and I have to dance more. I don't know, it would have to be a very special game for me to do that. Music games are so fun though, like like Guitar Hero. I used to play Guitar, it was so fun. Or like, yeah, I don't know, when you go to arcade they have like the piano stuff where you have to like, it's really funny, yeah.
My next question is about virtual reality, the VR, the experience of VR, the 360 visual images and visual videos. How much are you immersed in this kind of thing?
It's actually funny that you asked that, because I actually had a VR headset for a year. I bought it in 2019 and I had it until late last year, but I sold it because I wasn't using it much. I had one of the most modern virtual reality headsets of our time.
Which one?
It's called Index Valve,
Okay.
and it's insane. Like the controllers they had, you can do like this in the game. So they had like trackers, they had finger trackers, so you could like do this in the game, like do this. Virtual reality, I do believe, is the future of gaming, but we're still like super at the beginning because the technology that we currently have, it's really hard to spend hours playing virtual reality. The headset warms up, you get hot, you start sweating. The screen might not be completely calibrated. It might not be good for your eyes. It can cause like motion sickness kind of things. There's so many things, but I think it's incredible. I do think it's the future.
Do you go clubbing? Are you dancing there, or what's your experience on it, MJ?
I personally don't go clubbing a lot, personally because I'm more like I'm a weird type of introvert because I have like really great social skills and I'm very outgoing as a person, and I'm a good public speaker because it's part of my job, but I prefer to like be at home and kind of like be doing my things in my room, or like I prefer like more intimate social settings rather than clubs. I feel quite overwhelmed every time. I've tried to go clubbing, but I just feel quite overwhelmed, which again, it's very weird because I'm not like a super shy person, so it's weird. But anyway, I think clubbing is great. I think the styles that I do today immersed from clubs. Humans are born to move. That is a fact. Like when you look at the history of humanity, when we were hunter-gatherers, we were very active. We were very on our feet and we were using our bodies a lot. And I just think like there's something about like getting into a room with, strangers, and then like music goes on that we all connect to, and like we just really like to move our bodies. And like a good example is like my big brother. Like he's not a terrible dancer. He like he's not the best dancer, but like when he's in the club and the music is on, he moves, like he dances and he loves it. He tells me, yo, I love going to the club and I love just dancing all night. But he's not a professional dancer, which is what I'm trying to say. And like I have a lot of friends who are not professional dancers and they love to just go to the club and just dance all night. Even if they're just doing this, they're just free and they're just moving.